Hello and welcome to Williams College. I am Maud Mandel, the 18th president of the college, and I'm here today to give you a little bit of introduction into the year ahead. I'm so sorry we weren't able to meet you in person as planned. We canceled the event that day out of predictions, certain predictions that there was going to be a storm right at 2 o'clock, and in fact it came later in the day. And I really do regret not having the opportunity to meet you in person and to tell you a little bit about Williams from my perspective. But I hope this recorded program will suffice to give you some of that introduction. I have been at Williams myself for 4 years. Like you, I'm a parent of a college student. My son is a senior at another institution and has just left for his 4th year. So I know a little bit about what it is like to send off a student to college and to wonder what is going to happen to them upon arrival and who's going to take care of them, and is everything going to go as I hoped and as they hoped. And so I know some of the questions that might be on your mind. My primary job as the college president, of course, is to oversee the whole institution, and doing so gives me really a bird's eye view into our tremendous offerings and the incredible people who work here. And from that vantage point, I can tell you that your family is in great hands here at Williams College. Your children are about to embark on an intellectual and learning adventure in this residential liberal arts college that I think is exceptional. And I think that is because of the people who we bring to this institution. First, of course, there's the faculty, who are both stellar scholars and educators. And it's one of the real hallmarks of Williams that we have a professional faculty that is, on the one hand, very well respected in their own fields for the research that they conduct in all areas of study, but who are also equally committed to teaching and to undergraduate education. And it's this dual commitment to scholarship and education that I think marks this institution as quite distinctive in higher education. We also have a 7-to-1 student-faculty ratio, as you know, which means that the learning that takes place is direct and hands-on. Faculty take great care to get to know students, to support them and their learning, and to push them to reach their highest educational aspirations. And I think that is fostered also in an environment where students can do research with faculty and get to know them. And all of that enhances the learning outcomes that take place while students are here. We also have an exceptional staff, and it's worth noting that the many resources available to students, whether it's engaging in community work, community-based work in outside of the college, or if it is seeking internships and professional opportunities in the summers or in the January session, or if it's navigating a challenging class through additional academic support with writing or math or in other areas. No matter what area of the college you look to, what you'll find is a staff that is also deeply committed to the educational mission of the institution, to supporting students, and to ensuring that what students learn when they're here is enhanced and supported through all the various other kinds of activities that take place on the campus. And of course, in addition to the faculty and staff, we have the students. And there's no question in my mind that your own children will learn at least as much from the students that they encounter here as they will from any of the professionals who work here. And that's because this is a highly diverse community. We have representations from a wide variety of races, ethnicities, nationalities, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, interests, points of view, etc. And that comes together in a really dynamic way on campus as students figure out how to talk across difference, live in community, support each other, but also ask questions and learn from one another as well. And it's, I think, among the most exciting aspects of being on this campus is the incredibly talented student body that comes from so many different places and life experiences, and that provide a context where students can engage with each other and learn together. Ordinarily, I would spend quite a bit of time in this introduction talking about a liberal arts education. I am going to, and I know I don't have to sell it to you, who've already invested and decided that this is the right pathway for your family. I do want to note that we highly encourage parents and grandparents and family members to support students in taking intellectual risks. And into pushing themselves, by pushing themselves, I don't mean necessarily working harder. Sometimes I worry that our students work too hard, actually, but I mean pushing themselves to ask questions in arenas they might not have considered before, to let curiosity be their compass as they decide what they want to study. And not to worry too much, actually, about what's going to come after Williams while they do that. The good news is a Williams education, a Williams degree, and the kinds of support networks that are in place will help your children do quite well after college as well. But the foundation of that is what happens when they're here, and the experience that they develop in expanding the liberal arts competencies that they can take with them to do whatever they do next. Problem solving, research, data analysis, communication skills, all of the kinds of competencies that are necessary really no matter what one does after college. And that's really what a wonderful liberal arts college allows for. It does so while asking students to consider both the breadth and depth of human knowledge. Both are a little bit absurd conceits. They take 32 courses, which are meant to represent the breadth of human knowledge. Of course, they don't. But they do introduce students to what the known universe is out there about the known universe, and lets them know what they don't know, in a sense, in those 32 classes and beyond, when they see all of the possibilities of what they can study and learn. They're also asked to have a major, and that's meant to introduce them to what it might take to become an expert in something. Now, a major is only 9 classes. Nobody becomes an expert in anything, as you well know, because you're undoubtedly an expert in whatever you do. 9 classes does not an expert make. But 9 classes does begin to introduce students to what it would take to become an expert, how much work is involved in writing that one footnote that makes up the basis of just one tiny little part of an argument in a sophisticated scientific analysis, for example. And the goals of both of these, the breadth and the depth, in essence, are to teach us a little bit of humility in the face of all that we don't know, and to remind all students that they are lifelong learners, and that this is a very wonderful, privileged, and intense part of their journey to educate themselves, but it's one that started long before they got here and will continue long after they leave. And we encourage you to do everything you can to help them in that journey by reminding them that working hard is the point and thinking deeply is the point, not success per se, or a good grade for a good grade's sake, but rather the point of the entire endeavor, in fact, is to grow one's mind, which requires sometimes taking risks that can be challenging and not always successful. And we hope you'll be supportive of them in taking those leaps. We do all this in what I hoped was not going to be a COVID year, but is a little bit of a COVID year still. As you know from all the changing information we're all getting about the pandemic, the school is trying to be nimble in responding to the new information as it comes to us and changes. And that may mean that the context in which your student arrived on campus is not the one that holds true when they leave. We are doing everything in our power to preserve the core student experience, in-person classes, student activities, athletic engagement, participation in all kinds of learning, both on and off campus. We're hoping we can do all of those things. And in essence, all of our rules are in place to do what we can to preserve that core educational mission and the student experience. But I also know you will understand if conditions are such that we need to pull back in some of the things that we can offer so as to protect the health and well-being of the entire community, which includes the staff and the faculty who work here and the community members who surround this campus. And all of our COVID efforts have really been geared to our collective communal safety, which sometimes has meant that things that serve single individuals are not always possible given this collective responsibility. So we continue to take that very seriously, and it helps guide our policies this year, last year, and going forward. And we will continue to be in touch with the community as openly and as often as possible to give updates on how things may or may not be evolving in that landscape. Lastly, all of this is happening in a year when we are launching our strategic plan. Despite COVID, we're able to complete a very ambitious, very collaborative strategic plan over my first few years on this campus. If you're interested in that, it will be available on our webpage in a couple of weeks, and you can see Williams' hopes for the next certainly 4 years when you're directly on the campus or relating with us, but also beyond. And it is a plan that is really focused heavily on doubling down on the things Williams does well, the liberal arts core mission of the school, in a context where we want to prepare students for the challenges that they are going to face in their time and their generation, including deep cross-cutting commitments to sustainability and to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. These efforts, as well as new academic programs, new campus out of the classroom campus experience programs, focus on student well-being, sit at the heart of the plan, and I look forward to telling you more about that over the years ahead. So I'll end there just by thanking you again, asking you to help us encourage your new budding lifelong learner to get everything they can out of this adventure. And I hope that you are pleased with the results at the next family conversation that you have as you listen to the wonderful things that they are learning in their classes and on the campus. And I look forward to continuing the conversation with you over the years ahead. Thanks again.
Good afternoon. My name is Letitia Smith Evans Haynes, and I'm Vice President for Institutional Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the college. Welcome parents, guardians, families, and friends of the wonderful students who are joining us. As we continue to weather this pandemic, I hope you and your loved ones are healthy and safe. Just over 20 years ago, in 1995, I'd like to share that my parents brought me to Williamstown, as I am a proud graduate of the class of 1999. I had a good experience at Williams then, and I assure you, many things have gotten even better over the years and decades. So when I was offered the opportunity to return to the college to serve in my current role, I of course did not hesitate to return. And I didn't hesitate because I yearned to give back to Williams, because it's truly a place where everyone, regardless of who they are, can live, learn, and thrive. As Vice President, I work strategically with all community constituents off campus and on, including students, faculty, staff, and alum, to name a few. And I do that work to ensure a diverse, equitable, and inclusive campus. I help guide efforts to conceptualize, define, assess, nurture, and cultivate diversity as an institutional and educational resource and priority. Every person in the Office of Institutional Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion works to ensure that all students, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender or gender identity, religion, sexual orientation, economic or ability status, have meaningful access to all of the college's resources. And we engage the college community as we aspire to support robust, healthy, and also productive communication. I'll give you a few examples of how we support constituents. The Davis Center, in partnership with students, faculty, staff, alum, and off-campus communities, works to facilitate collaboration, dialogue, and explorations for social change to create an inclusive environment for learning, living, and community. The Office of Pathways for Inclusive Excellence aims to ensure students thrive academically at Williams and beyond through opportunities and programs such as research fellowships that work to eradicate racial and economic disparities in higher education. It is an office committed to forging and fostering positive pathways to and through the academy. We also support and encourage productive communication and will be diligent about fostering inter and intragroup dialogue as well as resolving conflict. We also have a robust suite of workshops that we convene and deliver for campus constituents and surrounding communities that touch on critical issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. Please know that we will support students and other members of the community in whatever way is necessary and in all ways possible. And we recognize there are many communities that make up Williams and understand that at times we may be apart, but we are still united as Williams. So have no doubt that if your child needs anything, our doors and inboxes are always open. Our phones are never on silent. In the most wonderful Williams way, everyone here truly works diligently and together to ensure that our students have an optimal experience. You should know that throughout their tenure at the college, the students will engage in critical discourse, thoughtful discourse, and respectful discourse. And there's no question that some of that discourse will engage and touch on issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. And one thing that makes Williams wonderful is that we are intentional about what we do here. And it doesn't mean that we have everything figured out, but it does mean that we continue to ask questions, we continue to engage the members of our community, and we continue to work hard to make sure that everyone here is included. So today, as we develop programs and coordinate curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular activities to be more diverse and inclusive, we have his story, her story, and their story as powerful guides. You may know that during the first 175 plus years of its existence, there were no women on the Williams College campus. And when women did join the college community in the 1970s, there were very few of them. There were also very few students of color. Today, more than 50 years later, Williams embraces strategic efforts to ensure that its learning environments are diverse with students, faculty, and staff of different races, ethnicities, religions, genders, to name a few. Consider the fact that Williams has approximately 10% international students, 40% of US students of color, and 16% or more are the first in their families to attend college. And approximately 50% of students receive financial aid. And you know that the college has its first woman president, Maud Mandel. So there's no question that Williams' commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is staunch. As I close, I want to say that I do not assume we all share the same understanding of and definition of diversity. So when I say diversity, know that Williams strives for identity diversity, what one may look like, and cognitive diversity, how one may think. At Williams, we believe that diversity and exceptional go hand in hand. A great school requires exceptional people, perspectives, and problem solving. A great school benefits from including people with different perspectives and diverse perspectives. Differences in identity, race, gender identity, ethnicity, religion, physical ability, sexual orientation, economic status, seen or not seen, all correlate with cognitive diversity. And over the coming weeks, as a first-year class joins this community, it comes to life. The people behind the papers, the essays, and the applications are a part of the Williams family. Their presence will be seen and felt on and off campus and in our communities. We know that each member of this class is unique and brings with them diversity in thought and being. And for that, we are extremely grateful. Once again, welcome to Williams, and thank you for your time.
Hello, everyone. I am Marlene Sandstrom. I'm the Dean of the College and a professor in the Psychology Department. I'd like to add my welcome and my congratulations. I'd also like to thank you for sending us your wonderful young people. We know how much love and patience has gotten you to this point, and we are thrilled to have your children here with us. We are really looking forward to getting to know them as they get settled in here at Williams. We know that students come here with a real richness of character that comes from their deep connections to their families and their home communities. In that way, your students bring a piece of you with them, and Williams is a better place because of the ways that your families' experiences and perspectives and traditions and values will contribute to the community that our students build here. So thank you for that. We know this is a really exciting time for students and for parents, and can also feel like a challenging one. So I thought I'd just say a few words about some key supports and resources that might be on your mind. I'll go through some of the key areas, but if you have any questions moving forward, please feel free to contact us. There is a lot of specific information on our websites for our various offices and programs, but I wanted to let you know that there is one really easy way to get information. If you email families@williams.edu, you will reach our Director of Family and Parent Programs, Rob White. He is a fabulous resource. He will either be able to answer your question directly, or he will funnel your question to the office or program or person that has the right expertise to answer it. So it's a really easy way to make sure that you're getting your questions answered. That's families@williams.edu. So let me talk just briefly about healthcare here on campus. The college has a fully staffed student health and wellness service that includes access to nurses, nurse practitioners, health educators, physicians, as well as mental health professionals. Our appointments with any of our healthcare providers here on campus are free and they're unlimited. We have an on-call number for off-hours crises, so there is support for students day and night. And we also coordinate our on-campus care with local community specialists and hospitals if the need arises. If you have any particular concerns about how your student will manage a current or an ongoing health issue, please don't hesitate to reach out to the staff at the healthcare center. They'd be happy to speak with you, or encourage your students to reach out with any questions or concerns they might have. Second source of support is our Campus Safety Services Office. Our Campus Safety Department is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And our officers not only maintain the security of the campus, but they also make it their business to try to get to know our students really well. They are friendly. They try to be approachable to learn students' names. Many of our students have children of their own who went through college, some of whom went to college here at Williams. So they are very familiar with what it's like to arrive at a new campus, to be away from home, and they are a wonderful resource to our students. We tell our students right from day one that campus safety is always the right first call in an emergency, because our dispatchers at Campus Safety can immediately reach out to our health services, our psychological services, our deans, and others as needed, day or night, every day of the year. So that's true for our students. It's also true for you. So if your young person calls you and seems to be in immediate difficulty of any kind, or you have an emergency and need to reach your student and aren't able to reach them, please don't hesitate to get in touch with our Campus Safety Office. They're very happy to assist. I wanted to mention another support that may seem counterintuitive to you, and that is academic resources. Of course, your students are here because they've been incredibly successful at academics across their lifetime. And some of them may have been incredibly successful without ever seeking out support or resources. But at Williams, there's a real culture shift. It turns out that academic resources are something that nearly every Williams student uses to strengthen and hone their skills. They do it both generally or for support in particular courses. And they do it across all 4 years and for all different kinds of reasons. Supports range from study skill training workshops to our writing workshop, our Math and Science Resource Center, peer tutoring, guidance about accessibility and accommodations, advice about fellowships and study away opportunities. So seeking out these resources and supports is what strong students do to become even stronger here. So to the extent that your child is coming from a background where seeking out academic resources might be something that feels like something a weak student might do, or that it is acknowledging some kind of deficit, it's important to make sure they understand that that's not the way academic support works here at Williams. It's universal support for all students. And in fact, one of the things I hear most often as a lament of upper class students is they actually wish they reached out to some of those supports earlier in their time at Williams. So we're sending that message to your students, and it would be great for you to reinforce it, that there are all kinds of supports and resources. And the earlier they take advantage and sample them, the more time they'll have to figure out which ones are good fits and then to take advantage of them during their time here at Williams. I also want to put in a pitch for another really incredibly valuable resource for your students, and that is their professors. One of the things that often happens as students make the transition from high school to college is that they face at some point during that first semester a crisis of confidence. They worry about feeling overwhelmed by a course. They feel like they're struggling. They just feel less confident in their ability to manage the work. And the first thing to let students know is that that's really normal. It's in fact almost universal. And when they feel that way, it's a really great moment to reach out to their professors. I'm a faculty member in the psychology department, so I can tell you with some confidence that our faculty members choose Williams as a place to live and to work because they really want to be at a place that puts undergraduates at the center of everything. And on top of their passion for teaching and for their particular area of research and scholarship, our faculty are truly passionate about their students. So when students have the instinct to avoid their professors when they're feeling worried or overwhelmed, we really want them to do the very opposite and lean in. So that's an important message to share with your students. I've spoken a bit about health, safety, academic resources. There is one key principle that runs through all of them, and that has to do with supporting students as they learn to assume an increasingly higher level of personal responsibility for themselves. That includes responsibility for setting goals, for making choices, for taking the initiative to seek out for themselves the resources that they want and they need here on campus. So a major aim, sort of developmental goal over the next 4 years, is to help our students become more independent on all of those dimensions. And all of our offices and programs work really hard to support that development. And we do it in lots of different ways. I'll give you just a few examples. Our Student Health and Wellness Center is obviously a place to go to actually get health care, but it's also a place where the staff are working really hard to help students figure out how to do health care, how to get the tools they need to start managing their own long-term wellness. So it's always okay for students to call the health center and just have a conversation about whether the symptoms that they're experiencing, for example, are things that would require an appointment or whether it's something they can manage on their own. Our healthcare providers are not just providers, they're also educators that are trying to help students get the skills they need to be really good managers of their own health moving forward. Talking to professors about their concerns is another way that we encourage students to take personal initiative. Often when our students work with deans, they're struggling with a course, and it's really great that they come to the dean's office for assistance. And the very first thing that deans will do is to help hesitant students find a way to feel comfortable reaching out to their professors themselves. They can email or call from a dean's office. Deans will sit with them and role play with them about conversations. The key is helping students over time figure out a way to try making those connections themselves. And another piece of independence and sense of agency that we're working hard to bolster has to do with your young people's right to privacy and to confidentiality. As high school students now transitioning to college, they now have legal ownership of their academic and personal records, which is a big shift. And it's a big shift not only for students, but for parents as well. So we won't be calling, staff from the health center, the dean's office, or campus safety won't be calling every time students come in to get support for issues that might come up during their time at Williams. Giving students ownership of their own experience is a really important part of their transition to college life. That said, we will, of course, reach out to parents when students are in danger. If there's ever a major health or emergency crisis, we will call you, or better yet, make sure that your son and daughter call you themselves directly. And for bumps in the road that don't reach that level of emergency, the deans, chaplains, other staff here at Williams will be helping students make their own decisions about what information to share and when they want to reach out for advice. Grappling with those choices is really important. It's a part of the process of your young people learning to make reasoned decisions, to step up as responsible young adults. I want to say something important, which is that, of course, your students are going to hit some rough patches along the way, and they will make some missteps. We know that because it's true for everybody. And actually, missteps are something to be celebrated in college, because they are what allows our students in a really structured environment with a lot of support. Those missteps are what allow our students to figure out how to move on from a mistake. How do you transition from that moment when you recognize, shoot, that didn't go well, or that wasn't a good choice? How do you get from that to the next step when you start problem solving? That movement from recognition of misstep to problem solving is something that they are going to be repeating in different permutations throughout their personal and professional lives. And getting practice in college is the way to learn how to do that well, how to be a lifelong learner and a lifelong problem solver. As long as our students' choices become more responsible and more thoughtful and ethical and community-minded over time, then we know that we're all moving in the right direction. So I want to wrap up by thanking you again for bringing all of these phenomenal young people into our lives. We are all so excited to spend time with them, to get to know them as they settle into Williams. Thank you.